There's stuff's coming through there. Stuff's gone through there. Yep, we're working. We are all functioning.
You sure?
Oh, yep.
Brilliant.
I'm watching it on I'm watching 3 different streams.
Hey?
Yeah, well, I've got the Restream one, Twitch one, and then the YouTube one.
Oh, beautiful.
They're all slightly out of sync with each other, which is wonderful. But which one's the real sync? Who knows?
Which one is the true sync point? Which
one's
one is the
true
master
time?
clock, motherfucker?
I suppose technically Restream must be the master one. So it gets it first. So
For now.
yeah, for now. Yeah, no. Good evening, myself and Graham.
Skazzius?
Welcome to episode 187 of the Randos podcast. There you go. Yeah.
I was going to question it, but I figured I'd break it. I'd break it this time and go, yeah, definitely 187. Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I was waiting for that, and then you didn't do it. I was like, oh shit, I don't know where to go from here.
Roll credits, podcast over.
Yeah. I've not calculated this eventuality.
Oh my god,
if I was a machine learning AI, I'd have fucked up now.
It's at that moment he realised.
Yeah.
He fucked up.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best intros I've got to one of our games nights. It was cold open as you just go, and that moment he realised he just fucked up, and you're just like, I think it was in Green Hell. You're just in the middle of this dark jungle.
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Oh man, I want to play that game in VR. Is it in VR? It is in VR, isn't it?
I don't know. Let's have a look.
Look it up, Ram.
I know the forest is in VR, and Green Hell is very heavily based off the forest.
Because I mean, I could have so much fun there, getting bitten and.
It's being released this year, the VR version.
Ooh.
Planned release date 2022. So
well, that's awfully 2022. Oh, I wonder.
So it should be out then by logic.
Sometime between now and beginning of next year.
Yeah. So there we go.
It's almost as bad as waiting for my Steam Deck order at this point that everyone started getting angry about.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Did I mention that in the last podcast?
Well, I can guess.
Well, Valve issued an update, didn't they, on when people were going to get their Steam Decks, and most people said like, you're going to get your orders sometime after Q2, right? And then for a lot of people, they updated and went, you are going to get your order Q3, 2022, and loads of people started freaking out, going, you've pushed my order back. It's like, no, they gave you a more specific time frame. Because, believe it or not, Q3 is after Q2, like they told you. But then so is Q4. So you could have got it sometime between, after Q2, after April 1st, or, Heat Death of the Universe, right? Around the same time as Half-Life 3 coming out. But now they're actually telling you you're going to get it sometime between July and October-ish? Is that Q3? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be.
I can't wait.
Q3 will be 7, 8, 9, won't it? So.
I don't know.
By August, September, so yeah.
I can't maths. My head hurts too much already. I haven't slept in days.
Yeah.
But I can't
so
wait.
I'm just watching Green Hell VR videos.
That's going to be so fun. Ram, we're going to have to do it. Dude, you know what we need? What? We need to get like some of those haptic vests, the things that help you feel in VR.
Yes.
And then we need to play Green Hell.
Actually we get haptic vests, and don't forget most animals grab you by the leg, so we need haptic ones in the leg. So as a crocodile bites your leg off,
you need haptic underpants.
Yeah. Oh mate! Somebody help me quickly, please.
Quick, there's something crawling up my legs. Then start punching yourself.
This haptic is so realistic, it actually cuts off your blood circulation. If you don't get the crocodile off in time, you will lose a limb.
Beautiful. Oh, so much fun. And that's when you turn around and backhand someone in real life. VR never felt so real.
Yeah.
Haptic vests.
Do we convince Saber to get it as well? We can just go multiplayer again.
Oh, that'd be beautiful. That'd be so fucking fun. Need to get Zebra a new PC, man.
We do.
Or at least a new graphics card so that he can
Or a
VR
hard
properly.
drive would be helpful.
Yeah, so he can actually install the game first. I didn't even think about that. I was like, yeah, because he needs the power to play the game. He would, it would probably help if you had the space to install it first.
Yeah.
We get him the graphics card, so where am I supposed to install it then? So, oh yeah, whoops. We'd better finish Vermintide 2, otherwise he's never going to play any games ever again.
Yeah, we've only got 2 levels to go.
Oh wow, okay. That was fun last time, just saying. But
That
we'll
was
talk
fun.
about Vermintide 2 in another episode.
Yes, we shall when we finish it. So, Skazz. Now, I have to admit a fuck up here.
Oh,
Before Skazz talks about what he's been playing.
sign the affection.
This is my fault. We agreed in the last podcast that we were going to play Metro Exodus.
Well, actually, we were going to play parts of the Metro series and Exodus.
Yeah.
Now, I'll admit, I didn't get very far at all. Like, I didn't even get to Exodus, so...
Well, I said, yeah, I'll do that. And then I forgot. So I haven't played Metro Exodus. I played something else. But I remember, so Paul Skazz is like, oh, you play Metro Exodus? No. Was I meant to? Yeah. Oh.
Well, no, see, because I was going to go through the Metro series, weren't I? And I only got up to... You fight the librarians. You don't fight them, sorry. You sneak past them, which... I hate that game.
I find them such interesting. You know, you can stare them down.
Yeah, oh yeah. But because their pathing's broken a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's a Metro game.
Mate, just because it's a Metro game. Like,
Part of the charm.
Mate, you know, I will admit, actually, it does have a lot of that kind of late 90s, early 2000s, like, PC gamer jank. Yeah. Right? It didn't come out then, but it still has a lot of that jank.
That just brings back so many nice memories.
Oh, mate. I couldn't believe it. I was like... It was really fun up until that point. Oh, and just as a quick note, the Linux port is broken. You know, right... So, spoiler for when we actually do talk about Metro, okay? There's a gamma adjustment at the start of the game, isn't there? Like, make it so the last of the darkest of these 3 things is just barely visible.
So you set barely visible, then put up a couple of notches.
Well, see, barely visible on Linux is, well, you can see the brightest one. That's it. So let's just say stealthing wasn't really a thing for me.
No.
It really made that dark and gritty atmosphere really well. Let's just say walking through a brightly lit area required the torch. You couldn't change it. It was the slider was broken. You'd max it out in the game, you still couldn't see anything. It was brilliant.
Stealing for the Steam Deck then.
Well, no, but see, that's the thing. If you run the game through Proton, and it fires up the Windows version, that slider works. So that's probably what the Steam, like most people on the Steam Deck will do. They'll just run the Windows version through Proton. But, gamma adjustments, joy. I was like,
to see in games.
I was like, how the fuck did that guy see me? I can barely see him. And I was like, oh wait, hang on. Gamma adjustment. That's not as dark in this world as I think it is it?
Just think of it this way. In this version of Metro, Artyom has got cataracts.
Mate, it was beyond cataracts. Like, a guy could be right in front of my face, and I'd be like, where is he? Do I stab him yet?
In this version of Metro, Artyom's walking around with a white stick.
Basically, that was it. I was like, how did he see me? Look, that game was... Look, it's just because it was so dark. That game is way harder than I remember it. I was playing it on a Steam controller with shite gamma settings. I was like, I can't do it. Help me. And then I put it on my PC a bit later and just fucking started steamrolling motherfuckers. Yeah. But it's just quickly, Redux is very different from what I remember of the original Metro.
Well, yeah, because basically they basically redid the whole thing using the Metro Last Lights engine.
Well, you have the option of you have the option of choosing like sparse equipment or Last Light options, so it plays more like Last Light, or you can have like there's the Metro 2033 like mode where it's more about survival. It's a bit tougher. But I swear they're throwing like 100 enemies at you, whereas in the original there was like 5.
Yeah, you didn't have many. I can't remember. Yeah, so I can't remember being horde. It wasn't like a horde shooter. Like, apart from like the very end of last light, it was like a few moments of it. But in general, it was like a small encounter with a few enemies.
Yeah, in Redux, there are some sections where there's like maybe 10 or 20 things just running at you, and you're like,
Yeah.
the fuck is this about? Like, I remember just again, last bit, and then I'll move on to the game I'm playing, right? I remember there being sections in 2033 where enemies would run at me, but the AI would do them in for me. Like, I wouldn't even have to fire a shot. In Redux, there's enemies running at me from everywhere.
Yeah, because at one point, don't you team up with that? Call what they're called. What they're elite people called? They're really top end, not hunters.
The Rangers.
Rangers, that's him. You team up that ranger guy, don't you? And he just steamrolls everything for you.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Oh.
That doesn't happen in Redux. Shit gets past him all the time, and that's what really threw me. I was like, wait, what? You know, so like some of these AI are basically shooting at a wall. I was like, what are we doing? And then just like, you know, I was like, I remember maybe a handful of enemies coming through here. Enemy 1, enemy 2, enemy 3. Shit, here comes enemy 4. The AI haven't finished killing them yet. The next enemy comes in. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? It was almost like they knew the AI was going to carry me through, right? And so, because they knew the AI was going to do a lot of the work, they threw in more enemies than the AI could handle.
So, oh well. But other than that, have you been enjoying what you've been doing?
Yeah, it's all right. Anyway, I'll talk about that in the Metro podcast. But
yes,
for the last couple days, I've been dicking around because I've come back to the Linux side of things. I set up a Steam Deck analog in my business Steam machine, and I wanted to try VR on my business Steam machine, and it works. So in theory, the Steam Deck should at least be able to drive a Valve Index. I don't own a Valve Index, but I was running a somewhat higher end headset. It should be able to at least drive the headset. All right, but I got to thinking, let's move the hard drive from my little business burner PC, my little Linux consoleized machine, and just hard swap it into my gaming PC. Do you think I had to do any reconfiguring or reinstalling or anything?
I would not. I would have thought not really. I would have doing most of the same files. Maybe because it doesn't have anything else. They won't have the executables. Well, they won't use Unix unless you're going for Proton.
Well, no, but like as an example, I mean, like the burner PC is Intel, a 10th gen Nvidia, an older graphics chip, DDR3 RAM, completely different sound chipsets and all that. Like every chipset on that board is completely different from the machine that it went into. So do you think it was just a straight swap?
It was just to play the games. I would have thought, we're not talking operating system here. Are we talking the games?
No, the whole thing. Just take the hard drive of the operating system and the games, plugging it into another machine.
Oh, right, with the OS on it as well. I'm not sure how powerful, but it was, and you're booting a Linux machine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how robust Linux is for that. I would like to think it's pretty robust and be able to handle it with some minor configuration issues, but I'd hope modern Linux to be able to handle doing that. Or it's either that or it's going to be a complete fuck up, one or the other.
It worked flawlessly.
Oh, brilliant.
It booted as though I had it still set up as the consoleized Steam machine. So it launched Big Picture and everything straight away. Just logged me in and launched Big Picture. My games were all there. They all worked. Everything was configured as I left it. It was absolutely fantastic. And I thought, for the lols, let's try and play another Linux game. Because I've said many a time, gone through this podcast, that when I switched to Linux for a bit of gaming a while back, when the Steam machines and that came out, that because of Linux's limited compatibility and limited game selection, I was trying a lot of new stuff. And one of the games that got a Linux port all the way back in 2016 was Tomb Raider. Do you remember the Tomb Raider reboots?
Yep.
Well, I got those. I've had them for ages, and I've wanted to play them for ages. I'm not a huge Tomb Raider fan, right? I quite enjoyed the first two Tomb Raiders on the PlayStation 1 and the PC back in the day, and the Sega Saturn. And I mean, I played. You know how you played Rainbow Six back in the day at like 3 frames a second?
Yeah.
I did the same thing with Tomb Raider 2. Like, it ran like complete ass on my PC back in the day, but we still, we persevered. We got through it.
I said that must have been fun for the jumping puzzles.
Well, you learn. You learn. You managed to get your brain to run at 15 FPS. It's pretty hardcore. But when the reboots came out, I wasn't hugely interested in it, to be honest. It was a time of reboots. I was like, do I really want to have a reboot? Do I really want to go through a reboot of the story of Lara Croft? Do I really want to know what she was like when she was a whiny beginner and all that kind of stuff? Probably not. Then when they released the Linux port, I was like, well, it's a game I can play on Linux. It's got a native port. Let's go for it. But I never, ever got into it much past like launching the main screen, like the title screen, and doing the intro video bit. I never really even touched the controls in it. My save file loaded up from the cloud. 2016 was the last time I tried to play that game, which is when it came out on Linux. Was 2016. It was a 2013 game ported by Feral in 2016. Fucking hell, dude! I am so glad I played that game. That I picked up that game. If it weren't for Linux and it didn't have that port by Feral, I wouldn't have even tried it, to be honest. But it was absolutely fantastic. Haven't finished it yet, but it's fantastic. So Tomb Raider 2013 and in turn 2016 for the Linux port is a retelling of it's the origin story of Tomb Raider's Lara Croft. So, Lara Croft was a big character back in the 90s? Mid to late 90s?
Yeah, she was PS1, wasn't she? She first came sort of, I would say sort of late 90s. Didn't really do very well, she didn't really do very well on the PS2, did say Angel of Darkness, which was pretty shit.
I don't know if I played that one. Because they dropped the numbers, didn't they? And then they started giving them subtitles, and that's at that point when I really started to kind of lose Tomb Raider.
Yeah, we didn't play. We played, I think, sort of. We played one. I can't remember which one it is. Was it? I think it might be number 3, where it's like sort of flashbacks at all the previous ones, like sort of like it's all like going through a bit like it's like the sort of surrounding arc is set like in the future, and they're like at sort of Lara's grave, and they're like sort of talking about her past.
Mm.
And so you play like 4 levels in her past.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. I'm not sure which one that is.
I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
So I mean, I played Tomb Raider 1 and 2, and then I don't remember anything about Tomb Raider 3, and then I know they made them on like PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360 and stuff like that. And I think I dabbled in one on Xbox 360 because someone I knew really wanted to play it, but I didn't. It was at that time I started to fall out of the Tomb Raider games. So when the reboots came about, as I say, I overlooked them. I was like, it's Lara Croft. Oh, look, another reboot. Did we really need it? But honestly, Ram, it's really, really good. Really, really good. So
96 was the first Tomb Raider.
Really, 96? I remember the adverts for Tomb Raider 2 because they were all like, "Oh yeah, Lara's back." And
I remember the Lucozade adverts for Tomb Raider.
Oh really?
Yeah, well, she's running. The dogs are chasing her. She drinks a bottle of Lucozade, and then she's got the energy to fight them off.
Oh, that's fun. As you do. I mean, every time you get chased by dogs, just drink Lucozade. It works.
Yeah.
It works. So if you're ever playing Green Hell in VR, you need your bottles of Lucozade.
Please don't want you to know there's one simple trick.
Yeah, life hacks. Life
Life-
hacks. Criminal life hacks.
No.
Number
Tomb
one,
Raider
drink
Chronicles,
Lucozade.
Tomb Raider Chronicles was the Tomb Raider we played.
All right. Oh, I think actually, no, I might have played that one. I might have played that one. I don't know.
That would have been, I think that was the last sort. That was the last sort of like original PlayStation Tomb Raiders.
Right.
They went on to They went on to PlayStation 2. So
PlayStation 2. Them were the days.
2. Them were the days.
They were the days. Because at one point, Lara was almost like a mascot, wasn't she? Because she was. It's going to sound really, really sad to say this. She was almost a sex symbol of gaming. Like, I remember actually buying, like, Tomb Raider 2, and the mouse mat was, like, Lara Croft in a bikini or something. It was like a mouse mat and some playing cards and whatever else they could throw in a big box PC game back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a you're exactly right. It was the sort of like she became sort of the sort of semi-unofficial mascot. 'Cause wasn't Crash Bandicoot their official mascot for PlayStation?
Was supposed to be.
Yeah, I
think.
think Lara Croft was one of the sort of first game characters that sort of crossed over into general parlance.
Mm-hmm.
In that a lot of people who've never played games would know. There's a point where a lot of people who've never played games would know who she, or would anything wouldn't be a spot, but recognise her, they would know of her.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the controversy of her breasts.
Yeah, they were pointy.
They're pointy. So
you could take your eye out with those fuckers.
Yeah. Oh, shush.
Because it was Lara Croft's titties that show you how real gaming was getting. Especially when they started to actually look like tits.
I found the Lucozade advert.
Oh, God, no. You're going to put it in the show notes?
Oh, yes.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, yes. I'll link it to you later.
Thanks, mate. It's going to be so good.
So many memories. 1999.
So I swear they were like, in the one where they're like, oh, yeah, Lara's back. There's like people in bars and that talking about, oh, yeah, fucking Lara's back. It's like, what the fuck is this? And yeah, they're talking about Tomb Raider 2. But, I mean... They were fun games, but as I say, like they went down that bad path. They kind of made too many of the Tomb Raider games, and they got samey, which is what I wish kind of Call of Duty and all that they'd learn from the Tomb Raider kind of groove, and like Hitman and all that, because Hitman got reboots, didn't it? And I was and Deus Ex technically got reboots and all that because Square and is it Eidos?
I would say reboot. I would say Deus Ex got rebooted because the ones they released were prequels to the original.
But it was supposed to be a thing to lead you into the Deus Ex series.
Yeah, I mean Hitman properly got rebooted.
Mm-hmm.
But Deus Ex, because they are sort of very the original Deus Exes are and the other Deus are about 40 years apart in timeline.
Yeah. So, which, by the way, I started playing those as well too.
Oh, cool.
On Proton.
Or the new one. I say newer ones.
Well, so
10, 12 years old now.
I've got the first one.
Yeah.
Right, and it isn't anything like I remember it. Save scumming all the way because AI in that game's a ball ache.
You're very vulnerable in that game. At least at first.
Well, it's not even like that you're vulnerable. It's like, wait, can they see me? Can't they see me? They can't see me. Oh, they can see me. I'm dead. Yeah. And then, like, same thing happens. Right, they're going to see me. Oh, they haven't spotted me. And then you're practically standing next to them. They haven't seen me. Huh.
Oh, early 90s they are.
Then you walk 3 feet away. Oh, you! Ah! And all of a sudden they get you. I can't remember what the second one was. That was the one that was on Xbox that you did an LP of.
Yes,
I
think
I have that one.
I've done LPs of both the original Deus Ex and Deus Ex Human Revolution. I think Deus Ex was my first LP I did, actually.
Because you did... Was it The Fall? Is The Fall the second one?
The 4 was originally a mobile game.
Oh.
That was released. Although it was The 4 that was my first Let's Play, because that's the default trailer on our YouTube channel only because I've never changed it, because that's the first one we uploaded, or I uploaded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was actually originally a mobile game that was set slightly before and slightly concurrently with Human Revolution. And it's a real shame because it's okay. I mean, for mobile, what was a mobile game? It's actually pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
And it sets up this sort of like whole sort of like separate subplot, sort of in the universe, but like sort of separate from the main ones. It doesn't cross over a lot. And it gets halfway through, it finishes just like you're about to go off somewhere, and there's also meant to be like a sort of sequel to it, and then they got the funding cut, so it never got made.
So what was the one that was on the Xbox?
You're thinking of Human Revolution, or they did the original Xbox.
Yeah, OG Xbox. There was Deus Ex, then there was OG Xbox
You're
game.
thinking of Deus Ex Invisible War,
That's the kiddie.
which was the sequel to the original Deus Ex. So
That's the
Deus
one.
Ex and Deus Ex Invisible War are like sort of the future Deus Ex, so they use nanomachines as
Yeah.
their augments, whereas Human Revolution, the four Mankind Divided, use mechanical augmentation. 'Cause
Right.
that was like they're like the first gen of the technology, as it were, and they get replaced by nanomachines.
But yeah, so the Human Revolution's the first of the Square Enixy ones. That doesn't have a Linux port, but that works in Proton. A bit janky. It's got a bit of an Elden Ring glitchiness going on to start with, because you have to wait for all the shaders and that to cache. So every time a new particle effect comes in, that has to be cached. And once everything's cached, the game runs quite well. Then you've got the Fall. I don't have that one. And then Mankind Divided is the last one.
Yes.
That got a Linux port for whatever reason when they didn't do the other ones. But what do I can't complain. They made a port. But Proton it makes them playable as long as you've got the horsepower to quickly cache the files and stuff. But so I was gonna start playing those again at some point. But yeah, we're getting sidetracked now. The Tomb Raider game though, great. The Linux port didn't work, and I'm starting to find that a lot with old Linux ports, that what used to work once upon a time, where operating systems have been updated, dependencies are no longer there for some games.
Yeah.
So they no longer launch. However, because Proton is getting better and better and better, the Windows versions work like almost flawlessly once you cache all the textures and that. Once all the shaders are cached, you're good. And so I was going to argue today that realistically, I don't actually think games companies are ever going to bother releasing a native Linux game ever again, because they can be lazy and just use Proton. But I mean, it's good, and I mean, I won't complain. But the Feral port of Tomb Raider just wouldn't launch. It just wouldn't launch, and I looked through a bunch of stuff as to why it wouldn't launch. And because it comes up that launcher at the start, doesn't it, with all the options and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't having any of it. So I right clicked it, hit the old Proton install, and started going through it that way. And it's really good graphically. That game is fantastic for a 2013 release. Like really, really, really good. And it's to retell, well, because Tomb Raider never really got an origin, did it, as such, other than maybe the one that you were playing, where they go through some of her past kind of raids or whatever. The 2013 Tomb Raider is literally, she is as green as it can get. And like
In
her
the story, she's not actually. It's not like she's even. I want to go raid this tomb. It's like almost sort of an accident, sort of sets her off there.
Yeah, so she goes off on an expedition. Like I guess her dad died, and she's gone off on this thing with some of her dad's old colleagues and someone who was kind of training her too. She doesn't have the confidence of olden day Lara Croft. Okay, she's not like, because old Lara Croft's like, I'm basically untouchable. I'm well traveled. I've done all this stuff. I'm great. This girl though is like, she's worried that she's never going to live up to the Croft family name. You know, she's used to like, I don't know, working in bars and that on the weekends and that kind of thing for a bit of pin money. Just hanging out with her friends and all that whilst learning stuff from her dad and colleagues and that. And I mean, she's still an incredibly intelligent young woman, but she just doesn't have any of the confidence to back it up. She's really squeamish and
she's all book smart, but not practical world smart.
Yeah, and so they go on this expedition because they're going to be shooting a reality TV for one of her, I guess, one of her dad's colleagues or one of her friends, because he's a bit down at the moment. He's been looking for something for years. He's never found it. And Lara goes, well, why aren't people looking here? If we keep following where everyone else has gone, they haven't found it yet. So I think we're just wasting our time. Realistically, let's go to this place. And all of a sudden, shit hits the fan. They end up wrecked on this island. It looks they're all on a boat. A storm comes out of nowhere, and story begins. Lara gets separated from the group, and you end up in a kind of a Far Cry 3 situation.
Yeah, I was going to say it's basically the same story as Far Cry 3.
Yeah, where all the people who are on the boat with Lara get taken in by natives. People start getting killed left and right, and all that. It gets really gruesome really, really quickly, like corpses everywhere, and people are getting stabbed and shot, and it is quite gory, to be fair. I mean, within the first few minutes, Lara takes a rusty, I don't know, like a nail or something clean through her abdomen, like through the side. It's not afraid to hurt Lara Croft.
No.
Which I thought was really interesting, because normally when your game characters are almost invincible, Lara's really squishy.
Yeah.
And it introduces...
You're normally invincible until you get to the end of the game where you have an injury and then you get slowed to a crawl just for the last bit.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. But in this, I mean, that's not the case at all. I mean, all right, she's still got kind of some of that superhero healing kind of quality where she can take like a piece of rebar or whatever to the side and just get back up. But she's squeamish, she's nervous, she's never killed anyone before. She's not entirely confident in her abilities to find all these clues, dig up all these clues and solve the puzzles and get off the island. When people start getting killed, she is mortified. She's horrified. She starts blaming herself because it's technically her fault that they are there. She was the one that gave them the idea to go there. But I can't think of the game. I think we've spoken about it before. As time goes on, so I don't want to spoil it a huge amount, she starts to get really fucking nasty. Like, she will happily just pull a gun and just shoot some guy in the face and tell him the fuck off, he deserves to die. What was that other game we played where they slowly get more and more crazy as time goes on? Spec Ops The Line did that. When you start, you're really fucking squeamish and like, well, you're not, because you're a soldier, right? But you think you're doing the right thing. And then by the end of it, you are losing your shit. Lara Croft kind of does that in this.
You're almost reverse, aren't you? You are a by-the-book soldier. We're doing this, the right thing we're doing. As you get more and more confronted by the horrors of war, you sort of go the opposite way. You become sort of squeamish, but you realise, actually, this isn't right. So, I mean, I think Spec Ops' probably most famous scene is the scene after you've done it's napalm or you drop on something, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you see all the just left there burnt by
all the carnage, yeah.
Yeah, isn't there like a half melted woman clutching a
child?
Yeah,
well, yeah, because you see a heavily fortified section of this base, and you do you've got a thermal camera, and you check, and it's fucking packed. Like, it's absolutely packed, and so you assume that because it's so heavily fortified, these are all soldiers. I mean, there's armored cars and all this kind of shit. Like, all of them are heavily armored. You're like, these are soldiers. Fuck them. And you fire like, it's like white phosphorus.
Airstrike, don't you?
So, you do something.
Phosphorus.
And you fucking burn everyone. And then when it all, like, because you then walk through it and there's soldiers screaming and crying and everything. And then as you get, like, as the flames kind of settle, fuck me, all the people at the back, they were civilians. these soldiers were trying to get civilians through the desert, and you just killed them all. It's fuck, man. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's a game totally worth playing just so you can see the slow decay into madness.
It's a very I think the reason it didn't do that well because they both thought it should be another cover based.
They wanted like COD or Gears of War.
Yeah, where the American army, hooah!
Yeah.
I'm going to kill loads of enemies and so forth. But it's actually a very serious. And to be fair to them, that's what the previous Spec Ops were like.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've actually I played one of the original Spec Ops on the PlayStation,
Mm-hmm.
and that's basically what it was like. You're the American, you're just the best, and you're going to kill everybody in hooah. And it's the absolute opposite. It's a complete different direction. I think that put a lot of people off it.
I mean, I've got to say,
it's one of the best written games I'd say in the last. Oh, I was going to say last 10 years, but it's probably more than 10 years old now.
I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. That game was absolutely fantastic. And again, I only played it because it had a Linux port at the time. I was so surprised by it. I was like, holy shit, this game is absolutely amazing. But I feel the same way, actually, about the Tomb Raider game. Lara is a brilliant character in this game. Okay? The world looks absolutely gorgeous, albeit kind of... There's a lot of set dressing in it. So there's a lot of pretty stuff in there for the sake of being pretty. And there's a lot of, like how games paint things to tell you where to go?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. It gives you the idea that there's lots of freedom, but all the paths kind of lead to the same place. Yeah. There's a lot of times where the game will throw QuickTime events at you to kind of, a cutscene thing will happen. It'll be like, oh no, Lara needs to run. Spam the run buttons or whatever, or spam these movement buttons, or someone has jumped Lara. Quick, hit the button to fight back or whatever. A lot of that kind of stuff happens. So rather than you actually just getting to fight these people, you have to press a button in time, or I don't know, you'll be running away from like the Crash Bandicoot boulder that were just chasing you. You have to kind of dodge it. That kind of stuff happens too. Lara makes the jump and you're like, yeah, something's going to happen now. She goes to grab, slips, the thing falls, and you can predict it. It's really predictable, but whilst being incredibly predictable, it's beautiful. It really does. If it wasn't so predictable, you would probably actually be going, oh my god, wow. But because I've probably played it so late, a lot of the stuff that it did back in 2013, 2016 is now incredibly commonplace.
Yeah.
So I now expect it, whereas I guess back then it would have probably had a bit more fizz to it. But not to take away, it is still an incredibly good-looking game. Combat is solid, so it's got kind of the Ubisoft way of doing things, whereby you can pick up and upgrade weapons and stuff like that. So you go around the map and you can go to these different fast travel points, so like campsites. And you can move between them to use items that you've unlocked to, say, climb cliffs, pry open doors, pry open chests, that kind of thing. You can then gather scraps, gather parts for guns and bows and things like that to upgrade those, to make them more powerful, to make them more accurate. That's really neat. The combat is quick, and it's not like in... How can I best describe the combat? You know how like in Doom and Duke Nukem and stuff like that, you have a corridor and then maybe an arena-y bit to teach you how to deal with like the next big enemy. So like you'll have like, I don't know, an imp will turn up and all of a sudden like the imp is the only enemy in the room, but it kind of gives you enough time to learn the mechanic of that enemy, yeah? And then next time that enemy becomes normal. Tomb Raider's like that. You have a few puzzles, and then you get slapped into a room with a new enemy, or a space with a new enemy that you have to fight, who's considered like a boss. They'll get an intro cutscene kind of thing. And you have to learn the mechanic for that boss character, sarcastic air quotes, and then all of a sudden that character just becomes a regular enemy, or enemies of that type just become regulars. It's a very old school, very neat way of teaching mechanics and formatting a game. The voice acting's pretty solid. As I say, Lara is a fantastic character. The characters around her aren't particularly interesting. They're more kind of cookie cutter cardboard. But Lara's is sound. I love the bow and arrow combat, especially considering that's your stealth option. I absolutely love it. It's brilliant. They give you access to guns quite early on, but I was like, nah, man, there's loads of bows and like there's arrows everywhere. I'm just going to fucking, take... Because it doesn't throw 10, 15, 20 guys at you. It might be just like 3 guys, scale the cliff, another couple of guards maybe. It's not like you're fighting a huge army.
No.
You're fighting, small pockets of people here and there.
Type thing.
Yeah.
So it's like intelligence. There's 2 ways games go. They either go toward the intelligence side. Well, there aren't that many people, but so they can't have too many people defending it, so we'll only have a few. Or they go payday 2 go, and they say this is the most well-equipped police force in the entire land. They have thousands of cops to throw at you. Mm-hmm. That's the way the game's to go.
And I've got to say, I'm glad that they didn't go hardcore on it, because it feels real. It makes it more immersive. It makes it more believable. And I guess the groove is realistically that Lara picks up different little pieces around the island to learn the history of the island. You can pick up logs from other people who have washed up on the island. You pick up you pick up things from people who were there when the island had kind of an active civilization on it, before it kind of fell into ruin or whatever, or became a myth. It's kind of interesting. Like, it goes all the way back to like World War II. The Nazis go there because they're looking for some kind of occult tool to win the war or whatever, and you can find little bits of research they were doing, journals and things from soldiers, dog tags. You can find like messages from ambassadors that were sent to the islands to deal with the queens and things like that used to be on there, and how they would have tried to escape the island themselves, and all of the weird things that were happening. Really interesting story. But I wouldn't have played it had it have not had a Linux port that doesn't work now. Yeah, really good. Like Tomb Raider, if it doesn't play anything like the original Tomb Raiders, which were largely all puzzle, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, there are puzzles in this one, but they're not super focused on the puzzles. The puzzles are there to break up the rest of the... Sorry, you were saying?
Particularly the ancient Jews, they were basically just one big puzzle section with just like a bit of combat in between. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, that's because the combat in Tomb Raider wasn't particularly good.
No, it wasn't. I mean, you'd get killed in a heartbeat, wouldn't you? In the original Tomb Raiders, like, do you know, like when the bats used to fly around Lara's head and you just watch your health bar disintegrate?
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, I just want to shoot that thing. And it's like, if you didn't already know it was coming, it'd instantly take like half your health off.
Yeah.
Or you'd step on something and that trap would kill you in an instant. Like, that kind of thing is in this Tomb Raider. Like, QTE will happen and you press the wrong button and all of a sudden Lara gets crushed under rocks. By the way, my God, they really do punish that girl in Tomb Raider. It's almost people would probably get like really twisted after. Like, they stab her, she gets burnt, she gets drowned, impaled on all sorts of things, crushed by boulders. I'm like, damn, how many different ways did they think of killing this woman?
They like to do that sort of thing.
But I guess they did that in the original one, didn't they? But she just used to ragdoll as she got crushed by a boulder or something.
That'll be a theme of tonight's podcast. I think when I discuss my game, you'll see a similar theme of that idea.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say, like, I wish I'd played it sooner, and I'm really looking forward to finishing it and playing the other games in the series, because there's now 3 of them, aren't there? Is it Shadow and Rise?
Yes.
Not all reboots are completely shit. Which is actually that's why I called the Deus Ex ones reboots. They're prequels, just like this one is. It's a prequel that then. I mean, because I would imagine they were probably going to make more Deus Ex games after Mankind Divided or whatever.
Yeah, Mankind Divided didn't do very well, which is weird because Human Revolution did very well. Mankind Divided didn't do very well, which is because I did. I played Mankind Divided, and although it played very similar, it was missing some X factor.
We've discussed that kind of thing before, haven't we? It just didn't have, so
Yeah.
it didn't have the fizz.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I didn't even actually complete the first sort of like zone.
Really?
And the zone's big. Don't get the sort of like there's like sort of three.
You mean the hub
you've got-
world that attaches
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the other
yeah.
missions? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like get. There's like a Prague during the day. There's an I know a bit. There's like Prague during the night. I never got a Prague during the day.
Mate, I think me and you, we're gonna have to go through the Metro games, and now we're gonna have to go through the Deus Ex ones, the newer ones. I will go
Yes.
through the original ones, but I'm not a huge fan of save scumming, and that is a game you really have to save scum.
You do it first.
Yeah.
As you get better gear and you upgrade stuff towards the end, it's very much got that power treadmill of you start off fairly weak, but as you get on, you get more and more. You can just sort of like it's almost like Neo from the Matrix starts off as this little guy who can barely stand out of a window, and towards the end he's jumping through and killing hundreds of agents as he goes through at the end. It's that sort of
I would
power
agree there, yeah.
progression. Deus Ex, so which is it's a fun power progression.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, even towards the end, you're still very vulnerable. I mean, I remember the first time I played through Deus Ex, I got attacked by an attack before I destroyed it. Took out both my legs, so I had to crawl my way back to a medical bot. Actually, took me about 10 minutes because obviously you basically move at a snail's pace. You've only got your arms to crawl along with.
Yeah.
So I had to crawl my way back up to this medical bot to heal me.
That was a fantastic and equally annoying part of that game.
Yeah, it was.
You hurt your legs, you're done, son.
Yeah.
Reload
Kind of
save.
cool. It's. I think what Deus Ex Deus Ex is one of those games which has emergent gameplay, which you don't. Not many a lot of games go on the emergent gameplay, and I love that. So lots of little systems that combine together, make interesting things happen. Like say Thief did the same sort of thing. I love those sort of style games. They've always been my favourite kind.
Just as a note, you've got a Steam controller, haven't you?
Somewhere.
Right? Could I suggest maybe trying Deus Ex on the Steam controller?
What? The original?
Yeah. Oh, seriously? There's keybinds for it. There are binds for it, so you can play it on that control pad, and it plays really well.
What? Even with all because you have like even with all your F, because you have like your F keys.
Yeah.
12, all your R keys.
Yeah. People have mapped them.
I'm not convinced, but I'll give it a go.
Mate, I've played World of Warcraft on a Steam pad.
Yeah. I'll give it a go. Maybe. I'm glad you're enjoying Tomb Raider.
I just wanted to throw that out there just because, there are still a lot of people who are crapping over the Steam Deck saying, why does it have touchpads? You can play anything on it. You can play anything on those Steam pads. So, yeah. But the Tomb Raider game's fucking fantastic. I really wish I'd played it sooner.
Oh, good.
So, what have you been playing, man?
Well, just want to Jimmy's been messaging us.
Who are?
Yeah, I mind that. I had that on my PC, the big box. So I think it was Gex. I think I've been talking about the original Tomb Raiders.
Oh,
I don't know when the message came through, so I'm guessing what it's talking about. So, I have been playing Amnesia Rebirth, which is the most recent 2020 Amnesia game.
Wait, they're still making those? Because there was
Yes, this is the third one.
there was the Amnesia, then there was Machine for
No, Amnesia The Dark Descent
Yeah.
was the first. Amnesia Machine for Pigs, which is still my favourite games of all time, even though it's pretty terrible. And Amnesia Rebirth is the third one. That came out a bit of surprise. It was something that sort of I remember being announced. I remember sort of seeing all the trees and stuff for it, and then completely forgot about it. And thought, what happened to that game? And, oh, it's been out 2 and a bit years. So
I do that all the time now. It's like, oh, mate, That was a
came out.
really cool thing. What happened? Oh, there it is.
Hmm.
Oh, it's on sale.
Yeah. So, Amnesia Rebirth. So the Amnesia style games are stealth survival horror games. You versus monsters that you can't attack, destroy, kill. Your only option if they come across you is to run or die, or hide, and try and escape them. Um, this game, this game is more of a sequel to Dark Descent. Then Amnesia, there's a third game long. Don't really, Amnesia Machine for Pigs has a few ties to Dark Descent. This feels like more direct sequel. A lot of the sort of lore that Dark Descent sort of built up and was creating and so forth. Amnesia sort of like touched on it slightly. It used a little bit of flavour, but in general, it was his own storyline. This is a more of a direct sequel. So in Dark Descent, you learned about these things called orbs. It's never made clear who made them, what they are, where they're from. There's like a thing chasing after if you sort of take it, you're not meant to. There's a thing called the shadow which comes after you, and like these is like sort of red reed type stuff. There's also talk about a different dimension or different planets in Dark Descent. Well, Rebirth basically takes all those plot elements. It's more of in some ways I don't say a true sequel, but it's more of a direct sequel to Dark Descent. It even features some that you even sort of so more ties. There's lots of bit where if I mention the characters from Dark Descent, there's the guys in Dark Descent goes on a tomb raiding expedition, and you go to that tomb
All
in
right.
Rebirth. So it's tied on a lot more, and it explores a lot more of this other dimension. So where it's talked about in Dark Descent, it's talked about sort of the sort of background, and you know about it. Rebirth, you actually go there. You actually go and see the place they're talking about, and it's integral to the whole game. So you spend about half the game in like this other world. So it's neat.
Is it made by the same people?
So this is what I was going to say. So frictional games made Amnesia Dark Descent and Amnesia Rebirth. Machine for Pigs was published by Frictional Games, but it was made by a company called the Chinese Room.
Who did Dear
Which is
Esther?
yes, I believe they did. Yes,
Yeah.
which is why Machine for Pigs is a lot more story based, whereas Amnesia Rebirth a bit more, say actiony based, but they've got a bit more depth to the action, less to the story.
Yeah.
That's not totally fair, but that's what I'll try. As a way to differentiate, that's why I'd say go. Amnesia Pig was basically more of a walking simulator with some enemies who could take you out in it. Amnesia's got more depth to that. So the general idea is your stealth. It's a stealth game. It's set in 1937. You are a French lady called Tazzy, short for Anatase. And you're basically been hired to go. I think you're going to go do some tomb raiding. To be honest, guys, if it's where you're actually going.
Oh, there you go. She's going to go meet up with her mate Lara Croft and.
Yeah, and you go there along with your husband, who goes along as you're an engineering drafter. He goes on basically as a rifleman, just for protection, because you're going to Algiers.
Right.
And on your way there, you're on the plane with all your other sort of people going with you, and your plane crashes. And you find yourself having no memory of what's all happened, with a hastily written note to yourself, and you are
Open it up. Oh, fuck.
yeah. And you are basically just in the desert, and you have to find and shortly after you crash, you hear a radio call coming from a doctor who was on the plane with you, which implies that they've got ahead of you, and he's calling for you and helping. You can't reply because the radio's not working, so you have to basically sort of make your way to try and find how the others got there and where they've gone. So you sort of following the footsteps of the previous cause and gradually work your way, and you'll gradually get back to the village where the doctor is, which is right towards the end, and sort of completely find out what's happened. And along the way, you gain your memories, you learn a bit about what happened. As you soon realise this is not the first time this has happened. You've basically done this. You're doing like the path again, and you learn more about how you got there, and what happened, and you basically unravel the story as you go along. The stealth mechanics of it is there are monsters that will hunt you down and look for you and track you down. if you it has to sort of, you're not just hiding because it has a tie to this stress mechanic called fear. So Dark Descent had this, Machine for Pigs didn't. And the basic idea
Because you had to
was
keep your
if you,
lantern filled, didn't you, in Dark Descent?
yeah, which is really hard in this one. This one's got lantern in it as well, but the lantern oil burns through so quickly. I think a full lantern will burn out, like full maximum oil burn out, I would reckon probably lasts about a minute, minute and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it got leak?
Must do. I think the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is this? Why is this burning out so much oil so quickly? You have got matches as well, which you can light. Neat feature about the matches, as you light them, if you move about too fast, they burn down quicker.
I just wanted to throw out there, let me guess, the matches last longer than the lantern.
Yeah, they do actually last quite some time. But you can also use them to light things. You can like, so the game idea is sort of like you go around, you'll create areas of light for yourself. So you'll find bits where you can like candles, lanterns, and so forth. Because when you're in the dark, you basically start to get scared, and this is shown by sort of like these sort of dark vines sort of coming from the edge of your vision and gradually getting into the middle. And as you get real scared, you'll start seeing these visions, weird visions of weird sort of alien landscapes and places. And if you really break down, you basically lose complete control, and your character just starts running and just lagging. You'll see brief sort of screenshots of like things they're seeing and so forth, like in absolute panic, and then you'll like calm down. You'll find yourself in a completely different part of the level. So you panic, just run off. So that is almost like the equivalent of checkpoint. So like, if you get really scared monster, you basically like go back to almost like sort of start point of that level. It did actually work in my favour once because the monster got too close to me, scared me, and I ran a panic, and then it going to the bit in front of myself, like farther down. So I ended up cutting apart the level out. I was like, oh, that's quite handy.
That's neat.
Not by much. It's not really neat. So as the monsters are there, you have to hide from them so you can either sort and what's interesting is your crouch button is. Oh, I should point out, if you look at the monsters, your fear goes up, so you have to try and avoid looking at them.
All right.
So it's a sort of it becomes sort of, if they get too close to you, it becomes a sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You get more scared, and you can as you get more scared, you'll like start making noise and stuff, and they'll hear you. And as you get closer, you get more scared, and you get in this loop. But if you hold the crouch button down, you almost like you go like to a really low crouch, which is quite hard for them to see you. So you can sort of hide in the dark. I'll be honest with you, the idea is neat. I do find it quite annoying, if I'm actually honest. I get why it's there. I totally understand why it's there. Meant to have a bit of tension and so forth, but it annoys me, if I'm honest. I much rather I'm just going to hide in the dark and I'll watch them go past. I don't need some fancy screen shaking and vines to scare me. I can do it myself quite easily.
Sure.
So I didn't like it. I didn't really particularly like it in Dark Descent, and I didn't particularly like this one. But once you'll get the idea of how to hide and work around, it's not too bad. One thing is this Dark Descent has no health bar. Dark Descent had a health bar as well. So, which again, Machine Pigs didn't have a health bar. So you had to like find stuff to take to increase your health. This hasn't got that. You can die. You can get injured. But it's more tied to the fear. As you sort of get injured, your fear gets higher and higher.
Okay.
So it's more tied to that than health per se. Your other sort of neat feature is that you are pregnant.
Oh.
And you are most of the game, you spend most of the game pregnant with this little baby. But it's okay, because the good thing is the baby, you can basically, by talking to the baby, you can calm yourself down a bit. So you can at any point press the X button, you'll go and you'll basically start cradling your stomach, and you'll just start chatting to your baby, and it'll kick you occasionally. So and if it kicks you, that's all like eases your fear off as well, takes some of the fear away.
Okay.
So that's all of its interesting mechanics. What's quite nice about it is that dialogue does advance and change depending on what you've done, how you've gone through it, or like if you also like where you are. So there are certain rooms you'll come across, not many, that basically they're fully lit. They've got some gear in there, and the doors can be locked.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually lock the doors. So if you go into one of those rooms and lock the door behind you, the monsters can't get you. And if you then touch your belly button, your baby while you're in the door, then you'll say, "Oh, it's okay, little one. I know we're safe in here," and so forth. So The dialogue she has changes depending on where you are, and as you do things, you'll say like, "I can't believe you had to do that," but it's all for the greater good, and sort of the greater good, and what have you. So that's quite sort of neat. And of course, eventually you do give birth to the baby at the end. But it's kind of neat. I like the storyline of it. I said the mechanics are pretty they're okay. I'm not a fan of this fear mechanic, but it's got some interesting. It's only got like a couple of enemy types, whereas like their previous games, previous game was Soma, which I still think is vastly better than this game, by a long way. I found the storyline so more interesting, and also what I liked was that every area you went to, the enemies were different. So you encountered a different type of enemy in every area, so to learn how it worked, like for each section. There's only 2 enemy types in the whole game. One you should encounter for the majority of the game. There aren't actually that many enemy encounters in the game. Really, when you sort of like think back at it, there are only a few bits where you're actually hide. I think the actual bits where I'm actually hide. I could probably count on one hand, half an hour, half 6 where I'm actually able to properly hide and sneak past them. There's like a couple sort of set bits where you'll be seeing past loads of them, but they're like sort of like, as long as you don't walk into them, you're not going to be a problem. And there are also like pre-scripted chase sequences in there as well. But there aren't actually that many enemies sort of encounters in the game, which is actually sort of interesting at the time. I think it's not until about third to a quarter of the way you actually encounter like proper ones. Most you might see them like in the distance and stuff, just all scary, but actually like as a proper 18 level that can actually get you now, it's not till quite late in. So which is quite interesting. But you were saying about your things that your Lara Croft goes through. My word, does Tazzy go through stuff? The amount of time she's fallen, dropped ladders, the amount of time she's been crushed by things, while pregnant, falling off ladders, sort of screamed, got nearly drowned, and so forth. So I'm amazed this baby survives birth.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
amount of things that she's happened to us, I can't believe that baby's going to survive without any issues at all. And like the very last section of the game where she like her water's breaking, you have to walk your way to the village, and you have to climb up a ladder and steps and stuff. So I'm no expert. I'm not having had a wife who's had children. I'm not sure how active and a lady who's like actually the stage of the water's burst, about to give birth, are they going to be able to climb ladders very much?
Oh, they get pretty aggressive.
Well, she's pretty aggressive. I'll get her first. So maybe that's highly realistic. It's like, oh, I've got a ladder. Oh, there's a plank to walk over. So she gets with I did like the sort of storyline. I liked sort of you go to a different world and you're exploring a different society, and the architecture is all sort of weird and strange. They're clearly sort of humanoid sort of people, and most levels revolve around a puzzle of some description. The game is nice enough that it doesn't often put you in situations where you're trying to solve the puzzle whilst you're being hunted. Generally, it separates those off, so you'll have sections where you're being hunted and chased and so forth. Then once you get past that bit, you can then have like total freedom to spend as much time as you want working the puzzle out, without fear that you're going to get suddenly chased down by a creature. I like that, actually, to be honest with you, because when you're trying to solve, if this puzzle's really obvious, you don't want to be in a situation where you're going to have to run and chase. I mean, it does do it occasionally, so put a little bit of twist the screws on you a little bit, but in general, it lets you be.
Sure.
It gets quite dark at times. Some of the things you do to people gets fairly dark, but it's neat. I mean, one of the early, and it's got some really sort of, and it's got the Amnesia interface things, which is almost like VR interactions before VR was a thing. So doors, you have to actually with your mouse click and to open the door, you have to click and actually pull the mouse back and forth to open the door.
Sure. Yeah, because you could peer through, couldn't you?
Yeah, and sliding doors, you have to pull the mouse sideways, and turn a wheel, you have to grab and turn it around with your mouse, and so forth. And you can do things like there's a bit where there's and this is in the little trailer bit where they saw this little gameplay trailer where she's in like this armory, and there's a guard who's like put a grenade on, and it's rigged it to the door. So if you open the door, the grenade will go off. Apparently, it's possible. I know I did try to do this. It didn't work for me, but I've been told it is possible to, with the right control, actually reach in through the door and like, unhook it before you
Oh,
open the
neat.
door up. So but it's got quite a few. So it's almost like sort of VR interactions before VR.
Have they made an Amnesia game in VR at all? Or
I don't think so. I think they worry that people wear their pants too much. So if you
pussies?
get scared, by this sort of thing, you have to be scared by this sort of psychological horror. If you're not going to get affected by it, obviously.
I see. I'm not a huge fan of psych horror just because it's too slow.
Yeah, I get that.
It's the same with like I was saying earlier about Metro with the librarians. It's supposed to be a really tense section,
Yeah,
but I just find it to be incredibly tedious.
yeah, I get that. You see, I was thinking because that was the librarians was one of my favourite sections of Metro, and I did find it a very tense section. But I like that sort of horror.
Well, see, I think it's just because like I was like, right, I'm gonna walk around the corner and there's gonna be one jump up out of the floor or whatever, and then I open the door, walk around the corner, and as per spec, on the button, as soon as I walk forward, up out the floor it come. And it's like, but I'd only just managed to get one to sneak past me, kind of thing. It was almost like I had to manipulate them to kind of break down certain walls and all that kind of stuff. I was like,
yeah.
But as soon as I get rid of one, I'm now having to manipulate another one to move around that. Like you've just thrown another one. They've like two of them have just walked past each other.
Yeah.
Like, how many of these things are there here? Like it kind of. I don't know if that was just a Redux thing, but there just seemed to be loads of the damn things. Like it just broke it for me.
It's been a long time since I've played 2033. I don't remember there being that many. Probably half a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
And most time you're only dealing with one at a time, occasionally two.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a long time since I played that. But I mean, I'm saying I know there's gonna be one pop out here, but I know that sort of horror gets me. What doesn't get to me is the sort of super gruesome horror. You know, it's like lots of things, lots of these little grippy things running at you.
See,
like
that kind of stuff annoys me too, though. Like gruesome for the sake of.
Yeah, what I call Doom style horror. That doesn't bother me at all. It never has. Even TV series, I find a lot of zombie TV film. When I've watched them, I don't find them creepy or horrifying. I find them more amusing than anything else. It doesn't bother me.
Sure.
But that's sort of you are defenseless. You have to sneak past this thing, and get out of its way. That stuff that does sort of just trigger something in me.
Sure.
Having said that, I would say I get more stressed out by Alien Isolation with the alien. I got more stressed out with that alien hole, and I got more stressed out with Soma's hole than I did with these ones.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the big issue was. I think it's almost like because when they're close by and you're getting cornered and your screens are shaking about, you think there's nothing you can do. At that point, there's no sort of out. So he's like, "Oh well, fuck it then."
Yeah, it breaks it for you. It's the same thing I'm having with the librarians. I'm like, well, I can't seem to get around them. I'm gonna have to. They're gonna get in my face eventually. Oh well. Or like once you see one swipe through a wall, it's like, well, I'm not bothered about it now because I know that if I stay away from the holes in the wall, they ain't gonna get me.
Yeah.
It's that thing we saw. We mentioned about some of the other psych horror games you played in the past. Once something gets you, you don't care
anymore.
And that's been my kind of beef with psych horrors before. It's like if I get caught within the first 10 minutes, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen the worst it can do.
The fear of being caught is more powerful than the fear than actually being caught.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I feel I got caught. There's one bit where it's scripted you get caught, but I think I only got caught in this game sort of like normally once in the whole game. So they're not particularly hard to avoid enemies. they sort of put and they sort of pushed on a bit. I said Soma did it so much better. I think because the enemies were just a bit more unique each level, and there were less of them. They didn't like throw lots at them, and they just did better overall. I mean, I enjoyed the game, but it just wasn't. It almost felt like almost like a step back in a way. I thought so much of what they could do when given more freedom. It's like they've almost all been like tied down with the sort of plot of the previous one, the mechanics of the previous one. They've sort of tied themselves into it a bit.
They've been
And the way they've
typecast.
treated it- Yeah, they've treated it a bit. But the fact that because it's not, it doesn't look bad, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's like super pretty game. It doesn't look like a game that came. It doesn't look like a 2020 game.
Sure.
If you feel me, it's not. I actually think Soma looks prettier.
Oh.
Which came out. I think Soma looked better than this one does. This looks sort of. I wouldn't say it looks much better than Dark Descent, really. In many ways, slightly better, more fine graphics, but this doesn't. I mean, it could be I've got a bit of rose. It could be I could a bit of more rose-tinted goggles on from Soma. Also, the other thing I think the ones Soma had was that it was a very unique place you were in.
Right.
You know, at bottom, it's all this base at the bottom of the ocean. You're going out on the ocean floor. Whereas this, you spend a lot of it in the desert and underground caves and a car and like this fortress. And then there's the ancient geometry. So it's not the ancient geometry is interesting. Being that doesn't feel quite so spectacular. So it's interesting. It's not. It's. I said I enjoyed it, but it didn't quite work for me as well as some of their previous ones.
I'm noticing that there's a lot of games you're playing of late where they're missing that spark.
Yeah. Oh, pardon for the noise. Sorry, Skazz. I just hit the microphone. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
He'll bash his earphones in when that happens. Yeah, they're sort of like missing that sort of X factor. Plus, she's got more discerning as time's gone on. I mean, I'm still enjoying them.
Do you think it's because
just
you've
look
already you've seen all of this stuff done before? Like I said, with the
Maybe.
Tomb Raider thing, like because it's so predictable now. Like it might not have been as predictable back in 2013, 2016, so it might have had that wow factor then, but because so many other games have done the same thing, it's lost that magic.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is because you spend a lot. I think the other thing is that there are a lot of things to compare. There's a lot of things to compare between this and. It doesn't feel so personable. The people you encounter don't feel so personal because you spend the majority of the game by yourself, apart from your baby, which you do talk to occasionally. Obviously, it can't really talk back. And there are flashback bits where you sort of have re-record bits, whereas in Soma you had a character who came along with you, who wasn't there all the time, but was there frequently enough, and you and her. There was a lot of banter between you and her.
Yeah.
And you talk to her, and she would occasionally wind you up, and you would wind her up, and there's a lot of sort of humour between the two of you, and that sort of made you feel like real people.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, there's like you talk to other people about 4 times, as in the current game. You do it a lot in flashbacks, but it's all currently there's like 2 there's like I think 2 maybe 3 radio conversations. And then you meet them in person once, and that's about it.
Sure.
So it's sort of you don't feel quite that much of a person in it. But I said overall I did enjoy it. I have recorded it as a Let's Play. The first Let's Play I've recorded since 2018.
I was going to say the last one you did was a long time ago.
Yeah, so it's fully recorded. I'm now in the process of editing, just doing some minor editing. Luckily, what I love about Let's Plays is you don't do a lot of editing to them. So, so doing editing, then I'll start uploading those. So you'll be able to watch me through and get sort of annoyed as I play through it. But it's a decent length of game. It's about sort of I'd say about 8.5 hours to get through.
That's pretty
Decent.
solid.
Yeah, and that's about actually as long as I want these sort of games to go. For as much as I enjoy these sort of horror games, these sort of games, I enjoy them afterwards, if that makes sense. Whilst I'm doing them, I find it stressful and nerve-wracking while I'm doing them. But then as soon as I've done it, I was like, oh, I really enjoyed that. But while I'm doing it, I really hate it.
Almost like the relief of getting it done is the thing that you... It's the
Yeah, I'm going
fizz.
through going through the section and so forth. There's a bit where like, okay, there's this beastie I'm looking for. He saw caught me. He saw new monster I hadn't seen before. Comes very late in the game. I almost caught him, managed to escape and run away from it and sort of like, well, I've got to go back in there. But I really don't want to go back in there, but I've got to go back in there. Or I'll go in there. And the whole time I was going there, sort of sneaking around, avoiding it and getting in out and so forth. As soon as that was I was hating it. As soon as I was like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed that. Sycophant to me, I think was what it is. So, but yeah. So look out for that on the channel.
Are you going to be doing more Let's Plays in the future?
I would like to actually. I do actually. Doing this, I actually realised actually how much I enjoyed doing them, how sort of relaxing I actually found doing them and so forth. So yeah, I think I will start picking them up again, doing them again. If I can sort of like, I like sort of do them in one hit.
That's what I used to do.
Yeah, try and play the game through in like 2 or 3 sessions, and then it's done. So I wouldn't like to. I probably wouldn't really keen to do a Let's Play on a really big open world game. Generally, the ones I've done on open world games are ones I've played through before, so I know where to go.
Yeah.
So you don't spend the whole episode me wandering around lost completely. So I don't, but yeah, games like this, which is like sort of a storyline that can done in about 10 hours. Yeah, I'll just tend to plow through them in like 2 or 3 sessions, play through the whole thing, and then I can just record it very straightforward and easy, and chop and change it, top and tail it, neaten it up, edit a few pauses here and there, and upload it. So yeah, I think I will do. I would like to do some more. So yeah, that's Amnesia Rebirth.
Fantastic.
So anything else from you guys?
No, mate, that is the everything. I'm looking to jump into some more VR stuff over the next couple of weeks.
Cool.
Should throw out there that Zenith the MMO is now top 3. I think it's past Valheim now in my time played on Steam.
Bloody hell.
Thank God. Look, a game I actually enjoy is now past a game that by the end of it I absolutely despised.
We are coming up to nearly a year since we started playing Valheim, you know?
No, we are not going back into it. I've been told they've added in new biomes and stuff. No.
No.
If we are, you guys are doing the work.
No. I don't think I can handle more Valheim. Let me just have a look. See when we started playing Valheim.
I mean, the thing is, I recommended that game. I just didn't think I just didn't think I'd be doing all that grinding.
It was too grindy. We started playing Valheim. Our first games night is dated. Why is it? 13th of April.
Damn.
So yeah, it's nearly about a month away that we started playing Valheim. This time last year we were playing Green Hell.
Good old Green Hell. I want to play that in VR. I really want to play that in VR.
We can play it. Yeah, we started with I think Zaber from Green, because we played for a little while without him, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did a stream or two, didn't we?
Yeah, 2nd of March last year we started playing Green Hell with Zaber.
That poor soul.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll discuss Vermintide 2 on our next podcast. And then we'll decide what we're going to do after that.
Assuming that we actually manage to finish it. Somehow, I imagine we won't.
Somehow, that last boss will take us 800 attempts.
Yeah.
So, cool. Well, in that case, thank you very much for watching. You can pick us up again on our next podcast on the 26th of March, 2022 at 9:30 GMT. You can join us for our live streams On our Twitch channels this Tuesday, 15th of March, approximately 8:30 GMT. You can see me on twitch.tv/SuffixRam.
And I'm twitch.tv/Skazzius, SK4ZZI0US.
Yep, you can check up our webpage, roundness.co.uk. You can check out our YouTube channel here on roundness.com if you're roundness.com. YouTube.
I was going to say, dude, come on.
Facebook, we've got a Facebook page, we've got a Twitter page. You also see us our podcast on Anchor as well. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time.
See you later, guys.